for one of my favorite, most underrated Kirby villains of all time, necrodeus, whose name translates, I think in like Spanish, to Death God. So just right away, you already know this guy is like either like the Grim Reaper or like Satan or something of the Kirby world. Basically, he's the god of death, which is kind of weird because we know that Morphonite is the one that takes place as the Grim Reaper. He's the one that just says if you go to heaven or hell or whatnot, or whatever the equivalent to that is in the Kirby world. So I don't think that necrodeus is like Satan or something, because, I mean, how many gods of death essentially exist in the Kirby world? And also that apparently goes to Dark Nebula as the ruler of the underworld, which the underworld has been brung up twice, which is also with Morphonite. So yeah, he's just another one of the many, many, many gods of death that just exist in the Kirby world. So let's talk about him. So, where to even begin? What is this theory about? Okay, so you know how necrodeus is a skeleton. I mean, if you've taken 3 seconds to look at him, you would already know that. But a skeleton represents something that is dead. And yes, I know he is a death god. But, listen up. So what was he... This is the theory about, like, what... Was he once not a skeleton? Maybe he wasn't always even a death god. Maybe he was a real living, breathing creature one time. Maybe. And not just maybe, I have proof. Okay. I know last time I said I have proof. No one would agree that it was genuine proof. So I'm sure people will be upset about this for some reason. Okay. So let's just examine him real quick. He has a giant head and horns, 3 horns actually. Not many people notice the top one. 2 eyes, some hole in his head, sharp teeth, what looks like teeth on his chin, spiky chin, whatever that's all about. A nose, necklace of skulls, giant skull hands with a half a circle on them, and also with circles on the top as well, and flying clouds. For one thing, I'd just like to say no, he's not dark matter. But I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I'd just like to say that there's a difference. Dark matter is 2 things in the Kirby world. It's the entity known as dark matter, the hive mind that comes from Zero with the evil eyes and all that. But I'd also just like to say that dark matter is just the substance that makes up evil things. So yes, he would still be dark matter, but he's not that dark matter. He's just made of it because he's just made to be evil. He hates light. He doesn't have any reason. He just hates light. That's just how he is. Not every villain can have an amazing, perfect backstory. Some of them have to just be evil for the sake of being evil. So, like I said, nose, all this. Now, him having a nose and one that is purple is already a big sign that he once had flesh. He was once a real being. I'd title this like human, but I don't mean like a human. As we can see, it's purple, and he's definitely not human of any sort at all. Heck, nothing is really Kirby. In Kirby, there are humans, and like the Shiver Star thing, but yeah, it's not human. I just mean like he was once a creature with flesh, skin, and a real body, not a floating mess. So, it's a purple nose. Now, I'd just like to say he looks like the dead brother of Nightmare. Bunch of crazy nonsense for a body, floating hands, all that. Nightmare does actually have arms sometimes, but that sense has been changed. It's been retconned in Team Kirby Clash Deluxe. He does not have arms. So, purple nose. Okay, someone might say, oh, well, he's just got a purple nose. Do you really think someone who is trying to look this edgy would just put on a purple nose, a clown nose? It doesn't make any sense. Now, So this could be sign that like he had like purple flesh or something. And yeah. Now he has an eye in his mouth, and some people think, oh, that means dark matter or something. But remember what I said earlier about this hole in his head? Now we can barely even see his eyes right now because of how dark colored they are. If you just look at it, doesn't it look like he has a third eye socket? It definitely does. Now, if you're a skeleton, you would just casually have like anything in you, any eyes, anything like your brain, it just floats around if your skull is like wide open or something. Now, so yeah, he has that eye. There's where it was before he became a skeleton. He has a skull. He has a necklace of skulls, which means he killed many things. But what all was that? And going back to what I said, was he always a god of death? Or was he once something else? Well, I do still think he was always a god for what we'll get to next. He also has a magic scepter, don't forget about that. It's the whole reason the game starts. But let's get to the next thing. This statue right here confirms everything I just talked about. First of all, it confirms, yes, he was a god. He was actually worshipped. He has an altar where people would go to worship his statue, which honestly isn't something you often see in Kirby games. There's tons of gods, as in like just they're really powerful, strong enough to be gods, omnipotent, whatever, nonsense like that. But really, we don't see many gods that are worshipped other than Void Termina. And since that was all about their worship. But this statue literally confirms everything I said. First of all, look at that. He has a body. Arms. Look, there's the third eye I said. This right here, just, like, I guess you could just say, oh, it's just a statue. But that doesn't make any sense. It's clearly special enough if he'll just leave his staff there. He has his own place of worship. And he's got some pretty powerful magic. He turned just a random greedy pig into Skull Lord. And there's more places related to the Skull Gang over at this Volcano Valley, which also makes it like more altars to him. More places where he's being worshipped. Even though there isn't really any people there. But who knows? Who cares? Now, so we got this out of the way. Yes, it's confirmed. There it is. He was once something. There's his third eye. There's his body and arms. Look, those are human hands. Those aren't skeleton hands. Still not sure what the heck's up with his jaw having spikes. Just character design weirdness. Not anything out of the ordinary. So what happened? Where did he die? Or become a skeleton? And why? Now, some people might say, I've gotten quite a few people that say, Kirby Mass Attack isn't even canon, why do you care? Kirby Mass Attack is actually one of the most canon games of them all. Because if we're talking about canon, if the only way to prove something is canon is if they're interconnected. We know that Squeak Squad and Superstar are canon because those are interconnected to each other. Guess what else is interconnected to Squeak Squad? Kirby Mass Attack. Because Darrow shows up and is directly speaking about what happened in that game. And also, in just one of those Q&As on Miiverse, which you can no longer see because Miiverse is freaking dead for Kirby Triple Deluxe, I'm assuming, since it was about that, it said that the Sunstones were turned to what the Sunstones are encased light, turned into a stone, trapped, basically, cases for light to keep them away, by someone who hated the light. And the only character to directly be considered hating the light is necrodeus. Yes, dark matter had the same goals of shrouding the entire world in darkness and all that, but no, nothing ever said he hated light. That's just him spreading the world. And he just is darkness. So, we don't even know if dark matter has emotions or if it just does stuff. Well, actually, never mind, we do know that. one of the Dark Matters was jealous. The first Dark Matter, the Dark Matter swordsman. But we're not talking about that right now. And remember the whole thing about Tyranza stealing the dimensional mirror to bring it to Sectenia because she wanted beautiful stuff and she wanted to be beautiful as a gift? What I think happened, there's no confirming this, but this is the Dark necrodeus headcanon, what you came for the title. What happened, or at least in my opinion, or by theory, which makes a lot of sense, is Tyranza also stole the Sunstones from Necrodeus. I don't know how he ever got there, and he stole those. And Necrodeus, and then they were given to Sectenia, and Necrodeus went there or something, and they basically something or another, either Queen Sectenia went there or Necrodeus went there, more likely that he did. What the heck? Okay, and they battled, and Sectenia used the Sunstones to burn away Necrodeus's flesh. That's why he was reduced to a skeleton. What about this? And look at here. Here's more proof for this. Look, skull necklace is gone. There's no skull necklace. Where did he get the necklace of skulls? Could have been anything he killed. He probably killed a lot. Because he's just, me angry god, you die. But those skulls could be directly from Sectenia's army. Heck, who even has human skulls in the world of Kirby? Because they don't look like any kind of Kirby character. Gabon also wears skulls. What's up with that? Where are these skulls even coming from? Who has skulls? Who even has skeletons in this? Definitely not Kirby or Meta Knight or any of them. So they could have been either from the soldiers, some of the bugs, but that doesn't make any sense because bugs have exoskeletons. So it must have been from the people of the sky, which makes sense. Because why are there only like 10 members of them? An entire kingdom with 10 people and then the rulers? That doesn't make any sense. They had to have died off somewhere. And they weren't killed by Sectenia or Tyranza because they captured them and put them in cages. It doesn't make sense why capture some of them and kill the others. They captured them all. The others were killed by Necrodeus. And that's where that necklace of skulls comes from. Could just be anything, though. There's nothing to connect that. And also, this just goes for a lot of things. Sometimes you can't base an older game off of lore that was added in the future to say, oh, well, this doesn't line up, because they're making up the story as they go. Same for the old Kirby games and Kirby Right Back At You. They made that story later, so it might not line up perfectly. But they made remakes and all that, and it will line up better. Like, yeah. I stutter a lot, and my phone turns off a lot. But yeah. So, I really don't see any flaws with this theory. If you do, go ahead and tell me so I can correct it. Or just completely ruin my theory by just saying one thing and then now I give up with making theories because they all suck. But yeah, there it is. It's one of my favorite ones because, for one thing, it's not your typical dark matter, King DDD, Void Termina, all those. Those are like all the theories right now are about the new games. We need to show some appreciation for Necrodeus. Maybe he'll come back. Maybe. I hope for a remake of Kirby Mass Attack. That game had amazing music. That's just one of my favorite Kirby games. It just is. I can't tell you why. It's just one of my favorites. I just liked it a lot. I have nothing else to say here. Why am I still delaying ending this video? Just end it already. What are you doing with your life?